Hi guys, it's Israel again with Heavy Metal Reptiles. I've got Perry out today. We have him out specifically because he is our only pet store buy, like honest pet store buy. We bought him actually on Black Friday from a PetSmart. And as much as I don't like pet stores, he's turned out to be one of our best snakes. I've never had any problems with him. So far, he's always eaten for me and everything, except he went on like a 2-week hunger strike, and that was because he didn't want frozen rodents anymore. He wanted to go to live. So he made that switch this week and got him his first live mouse, which I think was a little traumatizing for both of us because the mouse thought it was hard and was going to eat my snake, so I had to keep the mouse from hurting him. But he went to live this week, and since we're talking about pet stores, we got him out. So we're going to talk about where these guys come from and how they get to the pet stores. So a lot of these animals come from what I call like reptile farms or pet farms. It's kind of like a puppy mill type deal. They're breeding astronomically amounts of reptiles all at once. So like they're breeding thousands of snakes at once, and for each snake clutch you can get between 6 to 9 eggs usually in a clutch. I think is a good like average number. So they're producing thousands and thousands of snakes, and they're all hatching out pretty close to each other if they're breeding all at the same time. So there's a lot of neglect that happens at these places, especially when there's that many snakes, and it's kind of hard to have enough employees. Even if you've got 1 or 2 people that are monitoring certain places, I mean, you're still talking probably in a row there's 500 snakes plus, so it's almost impossible to be on top of everything. So there's the room there for neglect on the animal. There's room there for illness to spread and things, which causes a problem when it gets back to you guys, and you bought your snake and now you've got it home and it's got an illness. Not to mention the shipping processes for these guys going to a big chain store is completely different than when I order a snake online. Most of the time, if you order online and you're ordering from a reputable breeder, it's either overnight or same day shipping, to where you order it this day, it's here that day, and they've got heating pads and stuff. Well, when these big chains order them, I mean, you aren't talking days and days and days with these guys in a box being shipped, but you're definitely talking 2 or 3 days sometimes, depending on the store and what they're willing to pay, where they're coming from, and things like that. Especially when you get into some of the lizards, I know it's been bad because they're a little more hardy than a snake, so they don't care as much. The heating pads they use, the ones that I've looked at to use for when I start shipping, are only a 24-hour heating pad, so it's literally time sensitive. So not only that, you got stress that the animal's under. They get put into new enclosures and things, and it just isn't a good process for them. So there's a big problem with where these guys come from. For you guys is the one, purchasing the animal, to where they could be sick and there could be harm done to them. I actually recently just saw a ball python at a pet store that was in pretty bad shape. So and it happens, but that's part of the reason why I don't think you should buy from big chain stores, because it, more often than not, you can be getting a snake that's in really bad shape, and you're going to end up paying more money and not even realizing how much money you're going to have to pay. So like I just talked about with the likelihood of you getting a sick snake or something being wrong with your reptile once you purchase it from a big chain pet store, they don't properly, and I say this very broadly because there's been instances where I've been in stores and seen them taking care of them. But for instance, where I am here in Ohio, we have a Petco that's literally a hop, skip, and a jump from the house. We've been in there before, and I've seen humidities for these guys at 40%. And anybody who knows or seen any of my older videos or my previous videos, ball pythons require way higher humidity than that. You're usually between 7, or for me, it's usually around 70% is where I like to keep them. 70 to 75% is where I personally do. In the other videos, there's a broad frame, and I break it all down and give you the guidelines. But for me, it's 70 to 75% that I like to keep my ball pythons at, which is a really good humidity for them. They keep theirs at 40, and I say they keep them at 40 because I've been in there multiple times where it's 60, 50, 40, 45, but I've never seen it at what it actually should be. So that's a big problem. I have also seen these guys on aspen bedding, which holds no humidity, and everybody, again, if you don't know this, I have older videos, go look at them. These guys should not be kept on aspen bedding ever. They do require a higher humidity. The temperatures are never right, so I've seen these guys at 90 degrees before in pet stores. And it's funny because pet stores usually, or not usually, but a lot of pet stores will take the thermometers and the hydrometers out of the enclosure so the customer can't see what they're being kept at. I've seen this quite a bit actually here around where I live, and Petco just must not be that smart, and they leave them in there for me to go, really. I've seen their enclosures at 100 degrees before there. I've seen them at 90 degrees. Then I've seen them in the more appropriate range, 80, low 80s. And I've also seen them take the hides out of the enclosures so the snakes are out and able to be seen by the public, which their enclosures themselves there are great because they're 3 closed sides so that the tank itself isn't the problem, but still taking the hide away from the snake to where people are looking in constantly. The snake's stressed out, and it's not like when I get him out and I'm holding him for an hour or 25 minutes, whatever I have him out for that day. They are constantly 24/7 while they're there being subjected to extreme amounts of stress because of that. Fun fact, actually, when we got him, he was a little underweight. Don't know why, because he ate fine for me, like I said, until about 2 weeks ago, a week ago, something like that. We just had to break him off a hunger strike because he was still eating frozen thawed, and he didn't want that anymore. So, I mean, and that's not saying that's anything they did, but it definitely could have been his stress level. He probably wasn't eating weekly. He was probably eating less when he was there, so it's hard telling, but, I mean, those are instances that you see at pet stores more often than not. So we're going to go through some of the misinformation now, and I've got Petco's care guide here on the phone, and we're going to just go through and look at some of their stuff and pick out some of the misinformation they give us. And right off the rip, they're telling us that boas and ball pythons can reach 10 feet long. Yeah, your ball python's not reaching 10 foot long. Your ball pythons are going to top out around 6 foot. And that's a female. It's really a big female. You're going to be looking at more to 4 to 5 feet as a top out for them. Your females can reach 6 foot. That's not unheard of. Majority of them are reaching 5 to 5.5 feet, but you're not going to see a 10 foot long ball python. And if you do, call Ripley's, believe it or not. Your boas, so because this is kind of both, it's for both. The care sheet is, if you're referring to Colombian boas, their average is like 7 to 8 feet. I'm assuming it's a boa, so I'm assuming 10 foot isn't going to be unheard of, but I've really never seen a 10 foot boa in captivity. The closest one I've seen was a red tail, and it was 9 foot. So, I mean, they can get up there, but I don't see them reaching 10 foot either. So, and especially with the ones they sell at Petco and things, I don't think I've actually ever seen a red-tailed boa at Petco. Not recently, at least. I know I did when I was younger, but not recently. So, I don't know. That one you can kind of take what you will. I promise you your ball python's not getting 10 foot long, though. This one says, where's that? Feed in a separate tank so that your snake doesn't associate your hand or the habitat being opened with feeding. No, keep your snake in their habitat. People do remove them. So feeding for a snake, as stressful as it is, taking it away from its enclosure and what it knows, feeding it and putting it in, if you're feeding live especially, I mean, that's why a lot of people are against live feedings, as they say it stresses the animal out more. I always say the more natural the better. I actually am researching now to make my enclosures even closer to a natural environment for them, because I'm possibly going to do bioactive setups and stuff, and you know, I got ideas. So I mean, all natural is the best way to go. But feeding in a separate tank, even if you're feeding frozen thawed, is highly stressful on the snake, and then you're really not supposed to touch your snake, people say, for 24 to 48 hours. That one's kind of a controversial one. Some people say 24, some people say 48. Know your animal. That's all that is. But you definitely can't feed them and then pull them right back out of the enclosure you just fed them in and put them back in the enclosure that they stay in. You're just asking for your snake to regurgitate at that point. And no one wants that to happen. So keep your snake in the enclosure. You can remove things from the enclosure. I personally do remove clutter from the enclosures when I'm feeding. It's easier for the snake to see the rat or the mouse, and that way the snake comprehends and sees, and it's got plenty of room to do its thing. So substrate here in the housing section says aspen shavings, mulch types such as cocoa fiber bedding or reptibark, and then moss. Don't ever use aspen bedding for your boa or your ball python. They don't burrow. I use it for my king snake because he burrows and it leaves tunnels for him. These guys, they do burrow, but they don't. I use a cocoa fiber and cocoa husk mix, or coconut husk mix. It's in another video where I went in depth about how I mix it up and things. But these guys aren't going to burrow, and it works perfect for them. It gives them like the coconut fiber is like a dirt feeling to them. So it's really good for them, and it holds humidity really well, so it's easy to achieve those temperatures and humidity. Says to provide a hide large enough for the snake to fit inside, which is true. This one here, it says maintain 40 to 60% humidity. So these people are on drugs. Your snake will not survive in 40 to 60% humidity. You're asking for your snake to get a cracked lung. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. Your humidity levels, if your humidity is too high, you're going to cause respiratory infection. So your humidity should never be over 80%. I mean, in my opinion, people might try and argue that with me. That's fine. Like I said, I like to keep mine between 70 and 75%. If you get it up there too high, though, it can cause respiratory infections in the snake, and that can ultimately kill the snake. So you definitely want to keep that. Like I said, I stay between 70 and 75%. There's another video where I go in depth on all the temperatures and things too, if you guys want to go back and check that out, because the next one I see is the temperature. And the temperature, they're saying that it's supposed to be 95 degrees and 78 degrees. That's pretty high, especially, like I said, I've seen them up to 100 degrees in their enclosures before at their stores. That's the problem when you start talking 95 degrees. I mean, you can definitely see a fluctuation. If your tank jumps up to 95 degrees for a second, it's not going to just, the snake's not going to just drop dead. But you definitely want to get that under control quick. It's uncomfortable for the snake, the temperatures being that high. 78 degrees on the cool end isn't unacceptable, but 95, there's no way. 90 is really a hot spot temperature, I think, for a lot of people. So 90, yeah, but 95, especially if you're trying to maintain 95 and if something does spike, you're talking 100 degrees, that's insane. So there's a video, like I said, that involves all this stuff that you guys can go and get the proper stuff and more in depth. I'm just kind of trying to zoom through this real quick. It says provide 8 to 12 hours of lighting daily. Don't leave lights on all the time, which is kind of, should be common sense. They are animals, they need a cycle just like everything else. No, and I think that was pretty much the worst of it that I'm seeing. See, and it talks about making sure the humidity's right for their sheds. Well, your snake's not going to shed properly at 40 to 60% humidity. That's probably the worst, because when their eye caps get stuck, that's a pain to get off. I've had to do that before. If you are ever having trouble with your humidity done and the snake doesn't shed properly, you can soak your snake, which I'll do a video on soon, so I can show you kind of how I go through that process. It's not a hard process, but some people just don't know. Signs of health, active and alert, which these are things really that they just need to tell you to learn your snake. Healthy skin, free of mites and ticks. If your snake has ticks, there's a problem. So one of the red flags they have on here is a white cheesy substrate in the mouth. I'm assuming they're referring to a respiratory infection, and if you ever let your snake get that far into a respiratory infection, you need a vet quick. I would have honestly probably put something as a red flag as a mucusy around their mouth and a whistle noise. Vomiting they have on here, which your snakes don't vomit, they regurgitate their food, which is like vomiting, but that's not really a red flag. It could just have been stress. Again, that's something you need to know your animal for. So it says here that if your snake is not eating, it is a red flag. Your snake will go on hunger strikes. That's common. It's when it's for an extensive amount of time. So I think that's it as far as their care sheet goes. This is kind of like a small care sheet for them. Wish I would have went and got one from the store to go over, because theirs is even worse at the store. So, alright, we're going to move on now to the next section. Okay, so the next section is the ending of the video. Moral of the story: don't buy from big chain pet stores. Like I've said, it's better for you as the owner and the snake. Your experience is going to be a lot better to just go to a reputable breeder that you know loves and cares for the animal. There are people at these pet stores that do care, but their job is to sell. So, I mean, they always keep that in mind. It's like buying a car. You know, you buy a car, their whole goal from the time you walk in the dealership is to get you in a car. When you're looking at reptiles and you decide you might be interested, their whole goal is to get you to buy that reptile. So it's definitely something to think about as you're looking into buying reptiles, or you're looking into moving towards this as a hobby, to kind of know where to buy from and go from there. So, like I said, I've talked about it before. Make sure if you have any questions on anything, your lizard, snakes, whatever it may be, to message me. Like I said, we are doing some rehabilitating and rehoming. So if you got an animal that you think it needs help, we actually found a closer vet today after talking with someone while we were looking for new things for the YouTube videos. So we have a new vet that's a little closer, that'll be easier to get to too, for as we start getting in more rehabilitating animals. But feel free to reach out to me if you need help, or you need one taken off your hands because you don't have the money or the time, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, other than that, Heavy Metal Reptiles on Facebook and Instagram. Like I said before in the last videos, I think Twitter, you got to type in @Heavy Reptiles, but it's the Heavy Metal Reptiles is the actual page. So check me out on there if you guys got questions. Someone did comment on a video that we posted, and the comment was up for like an hour. I'm not going to promise I can get to those comments right away. If you guys have something urgent that you need me to see pretty quickly, I'm usually on Instagram about every 20 minutes checking up on things and seeing who's posting what. So feel free to send me a message on there too if you try and comment on a YouTube or video or something and I'm not answering. If it's important or if it can wait and you're cool with waiting, I do check my YouTube daily too. So I'll get back to you guys as best I can. If you got any questions though about brands or the animals or whatever, just feel free to send me a message, leave a comment. Thanks, guys.